Hello, my dusty friends. On today's episode, I talk about perfection, the pursuit of perfection, and how that is tied to our self-worth and mental image. Whether you are a hobbyist, weekend warrior, making commissions for friends and family, or already a full-time maker, if you are solo in your shop, this is the show for you. I'm Ronald Lowe's, the host of Solo in the Shop, a woodworking podcast discussing everything from current projects, tools and techniques, decisions around running a small business, and much more. So if you frequently find yourself alone and covered in sawdust, follow my journey and we can be solo in the shop together. Before I get into today's topic of perfection, I wanted to do a quick What's on the Bench section. This week, I decided to start offering checkout and reception desk areas as part of my normal table offerings. To that end, I have a friend who's opening a second location for her shop and has ordered a checkout desk 6 feet long with a granite top. I sent her several designs and she chose something pretty modern, the little triangular black section, a triangular black walnut section, and then shelving on the back. So that's in process, should be finished this week. I also took on a entertainment center modification, taking something that is about 6 feet tall and cutting it down to 36 inches, cherry with a new black tabletop. That gave me the chance to try out my new Fuji sprayer, which I'm falling in love with. It took a little figuring out to determine the right consistency for the paint that I was using, but I love the result. And though I love it, I wouldn't say it's perfect. And that gets us into today's topic. I've often wondered, is there such a thing as a perfect woodworking project? Can you design something and build it and at the end say, this is perfect? My honest feeling is that no, there is nothing that is going to be perfect. Perhaps there's things that are free from flaws because either the machining, the tooling, the skill of the craftsman are such that the finished product is magnificent. But perfect? Probably not. Perfection is not just the quality of construction, but it's also the overall design, the color, the grain. And I feel like there are infinite combinations of factors that preclude perfection. And hypothetically, if something was perfect, there's too many opinions. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So the perfect piece would not necessarily be appreciated as perfect by everyone. Some people would just look at it and say, no, that's not for me. But the more I think about perfection, the more I think, well, that's not really what I'm going for. I work in wood because of the variations and the imperfections. I work with wood because I know that mistakes can happen, accidents happen, wood has knots, things interfere with perfection. And really, my skill as a craftsman comes down to how do I deal with all those competing factors that are preventing the perfect piece from emerging. Now, that's a little vague, but I had a conversation with a friend about making a table that was glued up and had dominoes in it to help align the top surface, make sure it was as close to flat when it was glued up as possible. But I knew that I was going to be cutting into that glue up to get to the finished size. And I had said I intentionally place dominoes in a way that I avoid where I think I'm going to be cutting. And the last thing I wanted to do was cut into a domino and have that show through. And his reaction was, yeah, that would be awful, have to start over. And I was like, I don't think I would start over. It is a challenge. I would be more likely to dig out the mistake, figure out a way to alter the domino slot to look like a knot, fill that like it was a knot hole, and incorporate it in the design. I wouldn't want to have the unnatural lines, but I could make it look natural and recover from that. And to me, that's what I mean when I say mistakes happen and it is the skill of the craftsman to recover from that. Now, before I was working alone in the shop, I was in an office writing computer code. And while I was in the office, I learned that sometimes interruptions are the work. When you think that your flow is being interrupted, you're writing code and you're trying to solve a problem or finish a task, and you're in the flow and creativity is flowing. When that's being interrupted, you feel like you're not being productive because so many people are stopping by your desk and asking for help. And you consider that providing that help is interrupting. When your creative flow is interrupted and people are stopping by your desk, asking for help, asking questions, it's possible that providing help, answering questions is actually the work. That's the value that you're bringing to your job. Your daily production, while some managers may cringe, isn't necessarily the value that you bring to your company. It is the totality of what you produce combined with how you help with problems that come up. So you're actually contributing to the company in an unexpected way. So then I think about building a sculpture using Legos. All the Legos are perfectly shaped and they snap together. There's a predictable alignment that makes certain surfaces that are flat. The corners are always 90 degrees. And I didn't start woodworking because I wanted to replicate building with Legos. I wanted to embrace the natural elements. That means embracing the imperfections and expecting imperfections not only in the material, but in my ability to assemble and create things. So just like the office, fixing the mistakes, fixing the imperfections is the work and my measure of self-improvement. The measure of my skill is how I can address imperfections and mistakes, recover from those, and still end up with a beautiful product at the end. A pitfall that I try to avoid is linking the quality of any piece or even a step in a process to my self-worth. It's really easy to fall into the trap of beating yourself up and thinking, I can't do this, or I'm doing a really poor job of some task. For me, working with hand tools is frequently something I struggle with. I try not to beat myself up about it, but I do try to spend time working on that. Previously, I loved my normal go-to power tools, the miter saw, table saw, track saw, the domino, the sanders. Those I am very confident with. For a long time, I struggled with my bandsaw. I would get off track. It would drift from side to side, and I actually avoided using the bandsaw for that reason. I felt like it's exposing a weakness. Now, my wife got into creating wooden vases last year using offcuts from my projects. And she would sketch out on different pieces of wood a shape that she wanted to create, but she wasn't comfortable with most of the power tools. And because they were smaller pieces, I would take it to the bandsaw. And over the course of dozens of wooden vases, I got better and better and more confident and able to stay on a line and just got a better feel for how that tool was working. And I realized that it wasn't a weakness because I was unable to do it. It was a weakness because I hadn't practiced. And spending time on it improved my confidence and my competence on that tool. So I would say any tool that you struggle with, that intimidates you, spend time on it, work on that, and watch the improvement happen. But even when you're first starting and your first attempts are terrible, that's the process. It's easy to beat yourself up and say, okay, I'm going to stay away from this. It takes a little bit of mental discipline to say, that was a first attempt. Well, let me try again. Let me try the next thing and the next thing until you figure out what doesn't work, you figure out what does work, and improvement starts to happen. You may not get to perfection, but you'll get to better. As woodworkers, it's important to focus on doing the best we can right now. Don't worry about perfection and just keep improving. Those are my thoughts for this week. I look forward to talking to you again soon. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach out to me at solointheshop@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you got value from it and would like to help the show grow, I'd appreciate a review wherever you listen. Be sure to check the show notes for links to my socials or any extra stuff we discussed today. Until next time, stay safe in your shop, and we'll talk again soon.